Good morning, and welcome to the live stream of Diddy's trial day 27. We are at the end of week 6. It's almost over. It is almost over. The jury is expected to perhaps get this case or for it to be wrapped up at least as early as next week. So the defense was initially going to wrap up their case today, but then we had the juror who was sick. Then we had off of Juneteenth. And so we don't know if they're going to wrap up today or not. But the defense has already said they only need 2 to 5 trial days. So it's possible that jury deliberations could begin next week, but probably at the latest the following week. Some things that took place this morning before court started. Juror number 7, the defense was trying to get that juror removed. Why, we don't know, because it's under seal, so we don't know why they were trying to get the juror removed. But the judge denied that request, so that juror will stay. Also, the juror who was sick had vertigo, and that's why court did not take place Wednesday, is back and doing well. So everybody is back. And most importantly, we have been waiting. We have been waiting on Brendan Paul to take the stand. Brendan Paul is finally going to take the stand today. If you remember, he was arrested with Diddy back in 2024. Matter of fact, let me just show you all a clip to just kind of refresh your memory. It's real short, like 33 seconds of Brendan Paul and his arrest. So just 1 second so we can get that going. Here we go.
Tonight, we're getting our first look at the arrest of a former SU basketball walk-on player, Brendan Paul, who's part, police say, of a sex trafficking investigation of rap mogul Sean P. Diddy Combs. Paul is accused in court documents of being Combs' drug mule. He was arrested Monday, already out of jail, though, having posted bail. He played basketball for the Orange in the 2019-2020 season. Combs facing no charges right now, but federal agents have seized electronics from his homes in both California and in Florida.
So that is Brendan Paul, and Brendan Paul is on the stand right now. So we are expecting to hear from him. And we've actually been expecting to hear from him for the past 3 days. But those paralegals or summary witnesses, as they're called for the prosecution, just took way too long. way too long. And but nevertheless, we finally have Brendan Paul today. I don't know if Brendan Paul is actually going to end up being the last witness for the prosecution. That may be the case, which is interesting because who's missing? Who did we not hear from? The first person that we did not hear from that should be at the top of the list is Christina Quorum, also called KK, Diddy's right-hand person. Worked with him for 8 years. Name mentioned probably hundreds of times during this whole trial. For being involved in everything from directing the assistants who were accountable for setting up the rooms, for being in the mix of fixing the situation with the videotape at the hotel and getting that back into Puffy's hands, or so they thought. So they thought they had the only copy. She's been a part of everything. Messages with the women when they were, in situations with Diddy, you name it, she was there. She was there. We did not hear from her at all so far, and it seems like we may not hear from her. If we don't hear from KK, what does that mean? Does that mean she is going to be charged as a co-conspirator? Does that mean the government is just waiting to get this conviction on Diddy and then pursue her? Does that mean she has struck some kind of deal with the prosecution, but we haven't seen her, so I don't know about that. We also have not seen, probably right underneath KK, is D Rock. D Rock's name was also mentioned a lot during this trial. Diddy security. So it's just very interesting that those two people were not mentioned at all. I find it hard to believe that the government is just saying as long as we get the big fish, which is Diddy, then we don't care. We'll let all the rest of you go. I mean, they've given a lot of people immunity so that they would testify. So I don't know. It's just very glaring that KK and D Rock have not been called at all. So we'll see. We'll see what's to come there. I have a feeling that chapter isn't closed yet with those two. But what's going on right now with KK and D Rock in this trial, I honestly don't know. But I don't know how we get through this trial and don't hear from his right hand person, especially if she's not charged as a co conspirator. And I don't understand how we get through this trial and not hear from D Rock. Seems like he would have been given immunity and he would have been on the stand testifying like some of the other witnesses. So it's just odd. So we'll just have to see what's up with that as things unfold because right now I have no idea what's up with that. So we are going to jump into the testimony. Oh, also before we go there, and I'm switching over to that screen now. Today is also, from my understanding, supposed to be a short, almost like a half day in court. So they're not going to like 3:30 as they would normally. So in a way, that's kind of good for us, especially on a Friday. Because, sometimes those longer days, especially with so many breaks and sidebars and all of that, can get to be a bit much. So it's just a half a day today. So let's jump into it. Like I said, Brendan Paul is on the stand. He is being questioned by the prosecution, Christy Slavic. And let's see, we start right here. So, prosecutor asks, Mr. Paul, when did you start working for Mr. Combs? Brendan Paul said, I started working as Mr. Combs' assistant in late 2022, right after I graduated college. And in case you didn't know, Brendan Paul went to Syracuse University and he was a basketball player there. I'm not sure. I know he went on a basketball scholarship, is my understanding. But yeah, that's Brendan. And from what I've also heard, he also comes from a relatively rich family. So I don't know. He's almost like what's the little guy who was the friend of Tyreek on Power, who came from the rich family but wanted to be a part of that life so badly. Well, just like Tyreek. But anyway, let me not get off into Power. But so that's Brendan Paul. So Brendan Paul says that he started working as Diddy's assistant in late 2022, right after he graduated from college. And when did your employment end? He said his employment ended on March 25th, 2024, the day I got arrested at Miami Airport. The prosecutor said, what were you doing at the time of the arrest? I was headed on a family vacation with Mr. Combs. Oh, isn't that special? You were found in possession of cocaine. Can you explain that? It was in my Goyard bag. I used that bag for my personal assistant duties. And the cocaine, was it yours? No, it wasn't. I found it while I was sweeping Mr. Combs's room. I found it while I was just organizing things. I picked it up to move it somewhere else, but I forgot to take it out of my bag before we left. Is this what they busted you for? This cocaine you had on you that you didn't take out of your bag before you got? Well, I guess you were flying private plane, so you thought you were good, but still, you still sloppy. just, just saying. I would expect more from these. Well, I can't say highly paid assistants because, as we've heard from testimony, they weren't necessarily highly paid assistants. Not at all. Okay, so anyway, Brendan Paul said, the prosecutor said, "Isn't it true that part of the reason you were hired was because of your athletic background?" Yes, Mr. Combs' team took interest in the fact that I played college basketball. Now, why would they take interest in that, I wonder? You played for Syracuse, correct? He said, "That's right. From 2018 to 2020, I wasn't a star or anything. I mostly sat at the end of the bench." Okay. And once hired, what kind of tasks were you assigned? Mostly things related to fitness, food prep, workout planning, that kind of stuff. Mr. Paul, who first told you about the assistant position with Mr. Combs? He said it was Ellie Moran. He used to work for Mr. Combs too. And what exactly did Mr. Moran tell you about the job? He said, "Get in, get out. If you have a girlfriend, break up with her. You're never going to see your family." Okay. He made it clear it was going to be a really intense job that would demand all of my attention. When did you officially interview? Fall of 2022. It was at Mr. Combs's residence in Los Angeles. What happened when you arrived? I handed my ID to security and signed a non disclosure agreement before going inside. Who did you meet with? Christina Corum. There she goes again. There she goes again. Yeah, why haven't we seen Christina Corum? I know I talked about it even before we really got into this live, but it kind of bugs me that we have not seen her because I don't know. I just don't even want to think about the idea that she could potentially get a pass on all of this. Maybe she gave them information so that they could really go after Diddy, and she's like just going on now and living her best life. But her name is brought up so much, it just doesn't seem right that she would just, get to go scot free if that is the case. All right, so let's get back to the testimony. So he said he met with Christina Corum, his former chief of staff, and Frankie Santella, a music manager. We spoke for about 20 minutes. And when did you start? He said just a few days after the meeting. What were your responsibilities during those first few weeks? I worked out of the LA home, mostly took orders from other assistants. Daily tasks were split: travel logistics, packing, workouts, meals, music related errands. Did any of those tasks involve handling controlled substances? Yes, I packed marijuana joints in the garage. Is this what you went to college for? I'm just asking. What was your starting salary when you began working for Mr. Combs? I started at 75,000 a year. By January 2024, I was making $100,000. Can you describe the typical hours you worked while employed by Mr. Combs? I usually work between 80 and 100 hours a week over 4 to 6 days, but really I was always on call. So now this is in line with what we've heard other assistants testify, that basically once you became one of Diddy's assistants, you were on call 24/7. On call 24/7. I think Capricorn Clark even testified to when she left because she thought, okay, Diddy finally went to sleep. I could go home now. She left and security called her and was like, basically, where you at? So, I mean, multiple, all, quite frankly, all of the assistants who have testified to this same thing about the number of hours they would have to work. Who paid your salary? He said it was paid by Combs Enterprises. You mentioned frequent travel. Did you usually fly with Mr. Combs? Brendan Paul said sometimes, maybe 3 or 4 times on his private jet, but usually I traveled ahead of him to set up his rooms and make sure everything was perfect before he arrived. Did anyone travel with you when you went ahead? Brendan said occasionally, yes, stylists, photographers. It depended on the trip. Who handled your travel arrangements? He said Mr. Combs' travel manager booked everything for me. What was the longest stretch you worked without sleep? During the New York album release, I stayed up for almost 3 days, took a few naps. My job was to arrive early and prep hotel rooms so that everything was seamless and he had everything he needed. How do you stay up for almost 3 days? Is this because the other person who stayed up all those days, I think she had took like she took something, some kind of drug to help her stay up. I don't know if it was Adderall or whatever, but she took something. Prosecutor, how did you manage working such long hours with so little rest? He said, I was young, so I was able to handle it. How were you able to stay awake for that long? Did you use anything to that effect? He said, there we go. He said, I took prescription Adderall and rarely I used cocaine. I also smoked marijuana during my time working for him. What would you say your job was at its core? My job, according to Brendan, was to make sure Mr. Combs was happy, to fulfill every request exactly how he wanted. He did not take no for an answer. Did he ever describe how he viewed his team? Yes, he said we were like SEAL Team 6, elite, precise, and failure wasn't an option. Wow. The prosecutor said, Mr. Paul, were you ever fired during your time working for Mr. Combs? He said, yes, multiple times. I'm laughing, y'all, because I tell you, all of these assistants have talked about the long hours, the days without sleep, using Adderall to stay awake during all of those times, and being fired. They have been fired multiple times. Okay. Anyway, great workplace. Let's get back into it. So Brendan Paul said, yes, multiple times, actually, usually on impulse. Can you give an example? The prosecutor asked. He said, one time it was over a Lululemon fanny pack, which I had forgotten to bring along. He fired me on the spot. Oh my, what was in that pack? You already know from all the testimony we've heard. And that little small bag right there, I think my daughter actually has a bag like that. I better check hers and make sure she's straight. But normally in his bags, it's like drugs. I don't think they're carrying the baby oil and Astroglide in his bag, but definitely drugs. So he might be like, "You left the drugs." So I don't know. I don't know. So the prosecutor said, "And what happened after that?" He said, "KK, Christina, there she goes again. Christina Coram pulled me aside and told me to just lay low. She said, keep a low profile, and it'll blow over." Prosecutor said, "Did it?" And he said, "Yeah." A few days later, I ran into him and he just said, "Just say hey," like nothing ever happened. Did he ever bring it up again? No, he never mentioned it again. If you had concerns or issues on the job, was there anyone in HR you could talk to? There wasn't really an HR process. No shit. If there was an issue, you either went to Mr. Combs or to Miss Coram. I need to see KK, y'all. Where's she at? Prosecutor, were you ever asked to purchase drugs while working for Mr. Combs? Yes. I was asked to buy thousands of dollars worth. What kind of drugs? Marijuana, cocaine, pink cocaine, ecstasy, and ketamine. And then the prosecutor shows a photo to the jury. Mr. Paul, can you identify what this is? That's ecstasy and 2C. It's a powder mix of ketamine and Molly. It was dyed pink for aesthetic purposes. Mm. How often did you buy drugs? Mr. Combs liked specific weed strains, King Louis and Sunset Sherbet. Did Mr. Combs ask you personally to use drugs? Yes, he asked me to try some. And did you? He said I did. I wanted to prove my loyalty. Now, Brendan, don't you be like these other people, but you're probably going to be like them. Some of y'all were using drugs long before y'all met Diddy. Then y'all act like, oh, okay, well, I wanted him to know I was down. Banner, however you pronounce her name. That girl was flying high long before she met Diddy. She was even dealing drugs. I'm just saying. get on this stand and act like I was a Puritan. I was a pure soul. And then I met the devil. And he got me to do all of this freaky stuff. And then next thing I know, there's pink substances. Y'all need to quit it. Y'all need to quit it. Quit it. Back to testimony. So he said, I wanted to prove my loyalty. Prosecutor, what happened when you took it? I felt euphoric, but not the full effect. Did Mr. Combs ask you how it felt? He said he did. He asked if it was good because he was checking his Tootsie. I said, yes, Tucci. Okay. And then I just kept working. Is this your conversation with baby girl? What's happening in this chat? That's Jonathan Perez introducing me to baby girl. She asked if the drugs were for me or for Puff. I told her they were for Puff, but to tell anyone else they were for me. The prosecutor said, why did you say that? And he said, Puff was high profile. We always used aliases to protect his identity. Did Mr. Combs use aliases? Paul said, yes. Well, I'm sorry. I thought they just misspelled that name. Maybe they meant Cialis. Did Mr. Combs use Cialis? He said, yes. We'd place it on the nightstand. You sent a message to Love Red Phone. What does that mean? I called Puff Love. His red phone was for personal use. His business phone was yellow. Love Red. Okay. What did he text you? He texted Zans. How did you typically pay for the drugs? With cash either from the Gucci bag or from security, usually Fahim. The prosecutor said, in this text, you mentioned flowers. What does that mean? It's code for marijuana. Did you also refer to marijuana as tree? Paul said, yes. In this message, Fahim is telling me I'll be reimbursed once Duke starts his shift. What were Wild King nights? Freak offs? They were nights where Puff, his significant others, and others were involved in parties with drugs and sex. Did Jane participate in those nights? Yes. What about Mr. Combs' other girlfriends? He said, not to my knowledge. Who came up with the term Wild King Nights? KK, that go that damn KK again. That go that at KK. We have not seen KK. Why was KK not called by the prosecution? Why? She better be charged as a co-conspirator. Who came up with the term Wild King Nights? KK started calling them that, Brendan said. I usually just said he's going to hotels. The prosecutor asked, did Mr. Combs stop using hotels at some point? Yes, after the Cassie lawsuit, we started using the residences instead. What was your role in all of this? I cleaned up afterward. Prosecutor shows the jury a chat. I'm sorry. Now, so that's interesting. So he was using hotels up until that whole thing got caught on video. And I guess Diddy thought, okay, this is lessons learned, right? Lessons learned. So we had the situation at the hotel. There was video of it. I can't have that shit happen again. So we just gonna be at these different houses and do whatever. So we don't have to worry about no camera. That is the lesson. That is the lesson that Diddy learned from the incident at the Intercontinental Hotel. But I digress. Okay. What was your role in all of this? He said, I cleaned up afterwards. So the prosecutor shows the jury a chat. What does this message mean? Jane coming in, Brendan is setting it up, Wild King night probable. It means Jane was arriving, I was arranging things, and there was likely going to be a Wild King night. Where did you make the dinner reservation? He said, Nobu. And where was the Wild King night that evening? He said, at Jane's place. I wrote that I was running the Walmart for them. KK asked, and prosecutor said, KK asked, Wild King mode active or Gucci bag active? What was your response? I said it was somewhere between the two. How did you know what to prepare for a Wild King night? Brendan said, we kept a shared list in the notes app with everything that was needed. Who was in charge of supplying the Astroglide? You mean tell me this should not be shocking at this point in this trial, but there's a person who is in charge of supplying the Astroglide. Okay. Brendan Paul said the property manager. I don't think the one at 200 South Mapleton was doing a good job. So I took a photo to show her how the Astroglide should be arranged in the bathroom. How did you request cash reimbursements? Through Robin at TriStar. Okay, so this is an example. Wow. Wow. This is Diddy. This is what you have you just, I'm not going to go there. Let's keep going. The prosecutor said, did Mr. Combs contact you during Wild King nights? He said, yes. He would either send voice notes or FaceTime me. Do you recognize this message dated February 14th, 2024? Yes, that's from Puff. He was asking me to get him Xanax. Did he have a prescription? No, he didn't. Were you able to get it for him? No, I could not fill the request. What was KK's stance on your involvement in Wild King nights? She didn't really want me involved, but I still helped set things up and I cleaned up after. Okay, let's see what we have after. Boy, I tell you, more the same. More the same. Prosecutor said, is this photo from the day you were arrested? He said, yes. March 25th, 2024, we were on a rented jet. The cocaine you were found with, did it belong to Mr. Combs? The defense objects, the judge sustains. The prosecutor said, was the cocaine yours? Brendan Paul said, no. Was it intended for Mr. Combs? Brian still objects. The judge overrules. Paul said it was for Mr. Combs. What did you do following your arrest? Brendan Paul said, I entered a diversion program and completed drug treatment. The prosecutor said, no further questions. All right. So those are all the questions that the prosecution had for Brendan Paul. He is now going to be cross-examined by one of my faves, Brian Steele. And I would say from the testimony so far with Brendan Paul, I don't think we learned anything new. It is more of the same, setting up rooms for freak offs, more of implicating KK and all of it, and drugs. So yeah, we're pretty much same theme. So no loaded gun or anything there. It's like, okay, just one more person saying, yeah, this is what he was doing. Okay, cross-examination by Brian Steele. All right, you walked on to the Syracuse basketball team under a legendary coach, correct? Brendan said, yes. You played against UNC, but COVID cut the season short. Brendan said, that's right. You weren't just some drug runner, were you? When I tell y'all that I love me some Brian Steele, I just do. I don't know if it's the Southern flavor of it all. I don't know if the way he asks his questions or what, but I just love Brian Steele. He said, you weren't just some drug runner, were you? The prosecutor objects. The judge overrules. Paul said, no, that was not the full scope of my role. Go ahead, Brendan. Tell us what you was doing up there, honey. Since you were hired, you know, to set up rooms and all that kind of stuff. And you say you did a little fitness stuff and some meal prep stuff and some other stuff. You smoked a little weed, did a little cocaine. So what were you? What exactly was your role, Brendan? Brian Steele said that was a small part of your job. Absolutely. Were the drugs for your personal use? The judge said, please rephrase. Come on, Brendan. Let's see what you say. You gonna blame Diddy for you taking that weed? Come on. Brian Steele said the hotel nights, were they personal events? The prosecution objects again. The judge said, rephrase the question. Brian Steele, from what you observed, were those hotel nights not simply personal time for Mr. Combs and Jane? You know, relaxation. Were they not just relaxing? Brendan said yes. Did Jane seem unwilling or hesitant? Paul said, no, she did not. Yet another person who's saying, honey, but what I saw, and not these are not just coming from the male escorts because some of them have testified to the same thing. From what I saw, nobody looked unwilling. From what I saw. Okay. I'll continue. No, she didn't. Barnstable said, if you had witnessed anything non consensual, you wouldn't have stayed on, correct? Prosecutor objects, judge sustains the objection. You would not willingly work for someone you believe to be a criminal, right? Brendan Paul said, no, I wouldn't. What you talking about? I'm a good young man who graduated from Syracuse University. I went there on a basketball scholarship. My family got money. I'm not out here, trying to be a part of that life. Whatever, Brendan. You watch too much Power, okay? Because you were trying to be that white boy, in my opinion, to be a part of a life that you didn't come from. But I digress. Brian still said, your reputation matters to you. Brendan said, it does. You were arrested with 27 grams. That's barely more than personal use. It was a mistake, wasn't it? Brendan said, yes. And that case was dismissed? Brendan said, yes, it was. Brian still said, in your experience, did drugs make Mr. Combs more focused? Paul said he became extremely creative. Brian still said, sitting here today, would you say you're still grateful to Mr. Combs in some way? Brendan said, I had good experiences for the most part. Brian still said, no further questions. Now, another thing about these assistants who have testified during this trial. I'm trying to remember if it's everybody. If it's not all of them, it's damn sure near all of them. Who they testified to the crazy hours, themselves taking drugs, setting up the rooms, all of that. But most of them, if not all of them, also complimented Diddy as far as the opportunity, things they learned from him, and all of that. So I guess this is a situation where multiple things can be true. All right. Okay, so let's get back to the testimony. Prosecutor said, Your Honor, may we approach for a sidebar? Oh, see, this is the benefit of us starting a little bit behind where the actual proceedings start because we don't have to wait through that. So let's keep going. Let's see. Well, that was the hope because that was like 40 something minutes ago. Let's see. No further questions. And now we're just waiting. Okay. Let's see if we have anything. If we don't, we'll just jump into. Okay. So we're waiting now for an update. I'm surprised at that because that actual last update was like 46 minutes ago and they could not possibly still be in a sidebar. So we'll see. So while we're waiting on that, I think I will just switch over and let you all see. For those of you who are not aware who Brendan Paul is, there's a 33-second arrest video of Brendan Paul that I can share with you just to refresh your memory. And let's see, let's pull that up quickly here in case anybody is not familiar with this dude. Here.
Tonight, we're getting our first look at the arrest of a former SU basketball walk-on player, Brendan Paul, who's part, police say, of a sex trafficking investigation of rap mogul Sean P. Diddy Combs. Paul is accused in court documents of being Combs' drug mule. He was arrested Monday, already out of jail, though, having posted bail. He played basketball for the Orange in the 2019-2020 season. Combs facing no charges right now, but federal agents have seized electronics from his homes in both California and in Florida.
So that is Brendan Paul. That is who is testifying right now. We are currently waiting for the live feed on X to be updated. But while we do that, we can also tap into what CNN has for their updates because they may be a little bit more current than the X feed. So let me just cross over to that so that we could take a look at what's there. Uh, and my apologies for navigating probably not fast enough, but just bear with me. We're gonna get there. All right, here we go. And that's Brendan. That's how Brendan walked into the court today, y'all. Look at him. Look at him. Look at this. Any innocent? Don't look innocent. Y'all, he don't look innocent to me. This boy got caught up. He made a deal, just like everybody else, I'm sure, who had immunity made a deal. And yeah, but that's how Brendan came to the court today. All right. Okay, Brendan. All right, but let's take a look at what is the most recent update that we have. Oh, that's why. Court is on a short break. Okay, that's why we're not getting any update. Their breaks normally take about 10 minutes when they go on a short break. But there is some testimony I see that we don't have on the feed. So let me just go and get us caught up with where this is where we stop. Okay, just okay. CNN got a lot of stuff out here. So we should be able to get caught up here while we wait for X to get caught up. Okay, we know about that part. We read that part. All right, let's go here. I think this is a good place for us to start. All right. Defense attorney Brian Steele started his cross-examination, okay, Paul, by asking him about his background. Okay, we covered that on the X side. You were not some drug mule, right? Brian Steele, absolutely not. Let's see. Paul said that he believed the drugs he obtained were just for Combs's personal use. We went over that. I considered it to be like an escape. Paul just testified, confirming that he believed it was Combs's personal time to be alone with Jane. Okay. He testified that he often spoke with Jane, one of Combs's accusers, before Wild King night, and almost every time afterward. He confirmed that he never saw anything that made him think she was hesitant or not a willing participant. And I'm going to tell y'all what I said repeatedly over those 4.5 days Jane was on the stand. Jane, when it came to these freak offs, Wild King nights, whatever else they were calling them, because I think they got 3 different names they call these things. Jane was nobody's victim. Jane was nobody's victim. So she can get up here and do all this that she's doing now, because maybe she's trying to cash out now because she saw Cassie get that settlement. And I say that because in listening to how she was answering her questions, or correction, and listening to her text messages with Diddy and KK and anybody else prior to what went down with Cassie's lawsuit and Cassie getting that big settlement, it is night and day. Her tone changed so much. Her victim tone, that really started happening after Diddy settled a lawsuit with Cassie. Oh, and it's so clear when you're like there and listening to them just read everything pre the settlement with Cassie and post the settlement of Cassie. I'm like, girl, stop playing. Stop playing. You better go over there and talk to your baby's dad and try to get more than $5,000 a month. But I digress. All right, let's go up and see what else we have here from CNN. During cross-examination, Brian Steele asked Paul about his arrest on March 25th, 2024. Paul confirmed his arrest was for a small amount of cocaine for Combs's personal use. Neither Combs nor Chief of Staff KK, which is still MIA, asked him to travel with the cocaine. Paul recalled telling law enforcement that everything in the bag was his, and then his heart dropped excuse me, when the agent pulled the cocaine out of the bag because he did not mean to travel with it. Boy, you better be glad you got arrested, because I tell you what, Diddy would have fired you for sure for that. Because let me keep moving. Defense attorney Brian Steele asked Brendan Paul if he would work for a criminal. Okay, we covered that on the X side. Let's see. I guess what do you mean? Okay, well, CNN phrases it a little bit differently, so let's read it. He said, absolutely not. Steele asked Paul if he felt indebted to Combs for all the experience he received working for him. He said, I guess, what do you mean by indebted? Now, Paul, didn't you go to college? You don't know what indebted means? Like, felt like you owed him something because he gave you this opportunity, indebted, like you felt like you owed somebody something for doing something for you, being there for you, giving something to you, etc. You don't know what indebted means, huh? Okay. Anyway, Steele asked if Paul had learned a lot from Combs, and Paul confirmed he had. Steele then asked if he had good experiences working for Combs, and Paul said for the most part. Brendan, I like calling him Brendan. Steele's cross examination is over, and then the prosecutor redirects. Okay, let's go back up. On redirect, the assistant U.S. Attorney Christie asked Combs' former assistant Brendan Paul what he believed was taking place during Wild King nights. There was sex happening and partying. Paul confirmed that he was not present in the hotel rooms, so he did not know definitively if anything illegitimate was happening. Sitting here today, how do you feel about Mr. Combs? It's complicated, Paul said before he was excused from the witness stand. Is that it? Is that it? Okay, let me just keep reading. Let me just keep reading. The jury saw messages between Diddy and his former girlfriend Cassie. March. Well, this seems out of order. Well, maybe this is something. Okay, let me just see what they're saying. The jury saw messages between Diddy and his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Combs sent Ventura a hotel room number and then told her to call him. Hours later, Ventura texted him, WTF, really? I think it'll always be black and white. You threw out all of my SHIT. And later messages, she said, you best my head in. It must have meant beat. You beat my head in, later correcting it to beat. Okay, thank y'all. I'm going to stop. Let me stay with stop trying to get ahead of what they actually wrote. You're crazy, Combs responded. Let's stop talking. You dead wrong. Flipping on me for what? Cassie said, ain't flipping. I could come back so we could talk, but you know I fight. In later messages, Combs said, so we're clear this time. We're taking a break. This is really how you want to leave this. You sure? She said, no, I just don't want to be beat down for being defiant or ever. Ventura responded, you treat me and make me feel like I don't matter. You started all of this, Combs wrote in part. I guess I'm not down with abuse. It doesn't make sense to me. Ventura texted him. She later wrote, you hit me in my head 2 good times. That didn't make me feel good. I know I'm not crazy. I'm hurt. You have disrespected me so much in the last 12 months, Combs responded in part. Wow, you think you talking to on blank your little F boys? They can have you with that shit. I'm not taking no more. I guess this did it. Later in the conversations, Combs asked Ventura if she had ever gotten numbers for female escorts. Ventura texted Combs on March 18, 2017. You're at a point in your life where you want to party and have a good time, and I have to focus or I'll never become anything. Hmm. She also wrote, I had so much fun in Miami, then I realized I opened the door to that being my sole purpose in seeing you. I knew if I said no to it in New York, it would have been a problem. You treat me like a hooker, to be honest. You always want to call one and you have one. Oh, wow. You always want to call a hooker and you have a hooker. This hooker has been here for 10 years. Wow, Cassie. Cassie responds, wow. I'm sorry. Diddy responded, wow. Mm. And if I and let's say Cassie, all that we just read in those text messages, and let's say whatever she's going through in that relationship, including the parts that she was down with in the beginning, like the freak offs and stuff like that. Because like I've said on this channel, and I'll say again, as it relates to the domestic violence part, we're not even debating that. We all saw the video. He's guilty of that. Period. But when it comes to these freak offs, right? If I could ask Cassie anything, I would ask her probably, what frame of mind were you in where you wanted your career so badly that you were willing to participate in this stuff? Now, I'm not talking about you being forced or coerced. I'm saying you agreed to this transactional relationship because you were hoping that you could convert it into a music career. If you could do it again, would you do that? Now, it would be interesting what she says because half her real answer that she would never verbalize was that, well, at the end, if it gets me $30 million, I'll do it. Half that was her real answer. Or maybe I don't know. I just it's kind of hard because even in this case and some of the other cases that are popping off, not just related to Diddy, even with the Tyler Perry thing, because I read all 46 pages of what's been filed against him. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people willing to say yes to a lot of things with the hope that they can get on. That's just the fact. That's just the fact. Now, when we get into the conversation of what's legal, what's illegal, and all of that, that's a whole nother thing. People in the positions of power, if you out there doing effed up stuff, illegal stuff, and that what hey, whatever happens with that happens. But for the things where it's like consensual, which to the person in a position of power, even if it's not like the superstar level, you take on the risk. Because whether that person chose to do it or not, whether y'all doing drugs together, hell, the person might have even brought the drugs to you. At the end of the day, you in a position of power, that person can flip on you at any time and say they were coerced. They felt if they didn't do it, they wouldn't be able to keep their job. They were dependent upon you in order to keep a roof over their head. So they felt like they had no other choice. They could always claim that. So you take on all the risk of that being basically you end up in a situation. Now, I'm saying that to say multiple things are true, y'all. Some people are doing effed up things, and hey, whatever happens to you, happen. Diddy to me has done a lot of effed up things. I don't think they've proved some of the things they're accusing him of, but I think on other things they have proven. Like the whole prostitution thing, they to me they got that one on lock. That one I don't see how he's gonna be found guilty of that. Okay, unless this jury is just like no for whatever reason. For that, yes. Everything else to me is kind of up in the air. But has this man done a lot of effed up stuff? Oh, come on. Yes, for sure. For sure. But there's also a lot of stuff he did that was consensual. Like all the sex stuff and the parties and the freak offs and the stuff like that. Jane, nobody's victim. Cassie, 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 based off of your own testimony and based off of your own text messages, girl, you were not anti these freak offs. You were anti having to do them so often, but you were not anti the whole notion of a freak off. So these people be willing to do a whole lot of strange things for the possibility of getting on or being that close, that proximity to fame and wealth. They're willing to do a lot of things. And then when it doesn't pan out for one reason or the other, then they cry victim. Now, and I know I'm saying two things because this is a situation where multiple things can be true. There are people who are real victims, point blank, period. Some of this stuff you could be a victim of this particular situation and this incident, and you could be not a victim in this particular situation and this incident. So it's multifaceted. It's not just in some of these situations, it's not just black or white. But again, when it comes down to what's illegal, what you're gonna get charged with and all that, hey, if you do some illegal shit, something that could be deemed illegal, and you get yourself in a situation, you're just in a situation. But I just find it very interesting how so many people are willing to get into one of these freaky transactional type relationships because they either want the fame, they either want the money, they either just want to be close to the person with the fame and the money. And then they say, oh, well, I felt forced. Were you forced or did you make a decision? Were you forced or did you make a decision? Did you agree to be in this transactional relationship? And it probably wasn't your first transactional relationship. Now, this thing with flying in prostitutes and cross state lines and paying for commercial sex acts, they got you on that, Diddy. If you don't go to prison for nothing else, you're probably going to prison for that. How long the sentence is for that, I don't know. I don't think that's worth life in prison, but they definitely got you on that. But from just my perspective, following this trial so closely day in, day out, I still feel like everything else is up in the air. Even the stuff with Kid Cudi, I don't feel like, I feel like all the jury was left with was considering everything that was going on and the interaction between him and Kid Cudi and the audacity Diddy had with him and one of his security guards to literally break into Kid Cudi's house. All the jury was left with was, it is likely then that he could have also done this arson thing. Is the jury gonna feel comfortable convicting him on it is likely he did this or had somebody do it? That could be a toss up for the jury. I don't know. So that's why I said everything to me is up in the air at this point, and the prosecution is about to wrap. Everything is up in the air except for the prosecution charges. I'm sorry, for the prostitution charges. Everything else is up in the air. All right, let's see what other update we have here. Okay. So that's a good update from CNN. Before we get into that, though, I want to check on the X side and just see if we have any updates. And if not, then we'll just go back into reading what's on the CNN side. So just bear with me just 1 second while I'm checking the X feed. Okay, I don't see anything there. So let's see what this update is. I was scared of your rage, Ventura told Combs in a text message. Before the break, prosecutor Madison Smizer showed the jury a text thread between Ventura and Combs from May 2nd, 2017. Ventura said in part, "You get effed up, you drag me down the hall by my hair. I'm 30 years old. This isn't play anymore." Honey, that should have never been play. That should have never been play. Don't have any idea what Cassie's psychology is, her mindset, how she grew up, what she was exposed to. Maybe she wasn't exposed to anything. Maybe she had a fine childhood, but she's this far in now trying to get on, and maybe she's trying to see it through. But I don't know. But dragging you by your hair, she said, "I'm 30 years old. This isn't play anymore. Was it ever?" She also said, "I was scared of your rage. I talk out of line sometimes, and I do apologize." Now, that sounds like somebody's being abused. "I talk out of line sometimes, and I do apologize, but that doesn't mean I don't love you, and your love shouldn't equate to what you do for me." Okay. "Physicalities, take it somewhere else. Boris had to tackle you, Puff. That's not love. That's possession. I have bleeding cuts." Like I said, when it comes down to the domestic violence part, no debate. No debate. And if he were being charged for domestic violence at the state level, give him the max. Whatever he can get, he deserves it, because he was definitely beating her ass. Okay. Combs told Ventura she was unappreciative for a night he planned for her and said, "I'm not going to let someone S on me when all I've done is be nice." Diddy's crazy. He wrote, "Any other woman in the world would have been so happy, and you're whack for not keeping it real when I and everyone knows you were acting like a beat." Combs told Cassie, "You need to ask someone how you were acting. Talk to your people. They'll tell you, or they won't, because all they do is suck you. KK won't. Talk to her." There she go again. There she go, KK. I tell you, that's the most popular name in this trial outside of Diddy and Cassie. There's KK again. Cassie also texted Combs' chief of staff, KK. She wrote, "I'm sure you don't want to get involved, but he said I was an a-hole, which I owned up to, but no one deserves being dragged by their hair. I locked the door for my safety." What KK? KK probably told her, "Well, just lay low. It'll all blow over, but he gonna want to talk to you in the morning." The jury is back and hearing more messages. The judge is on the bench, and the jury is back from their short break. Prosecutor Emily Johnson is reading more messages into the record. Okay, so maybe that's why our X thread is not updating as frequently as it was. So let me just check back there before we proceed. But y'all, I need this trial to be over. I really do need this trial to be over because I really don't have any idea. I mean, the defense has to get their shot because it's their turn next. Prosecution should wrap up. If they don't wrap up today, they probably will wrap up Monday. And then the defense said they needed 2 to 5 trial days to do their part. I have no idea who are they going to present as witnesses. That should be interesting. But at the end of the day, this testimony now has been redundant for quite a while. Quite a while. I'm trying to think of what was the last thing where I thought, "Oh, now that's shocking," or that's meaningful. Um, I can't recall it. It's been so long because everything has been so redundant. The one thing I think they have him on lock, stock, and barrel prostitution. Well, we've been checked that one off. So I just don't. This trial has been very heavy on continuously giving us information on the freak offs, continuously giving us information on the drugs, continuously giving us information on who scheduled travel, who paid for the tickets, who did whatever. So they've done that through all these different witnesses, but nothing like a smoking gun. Like, oh, because when they called his former CFO, I said, okay, fine. They got a former CFO up here. Now we must be at the part of the program where they are going to show us how all of this activity that we've been talking about was in support of a criminal enterprise, which would justify the RICO charge. Did we get that from the CFO? We did not. If anything, to me, the CFO really came off more as a character witness almost for Diddy, like being called by the defense. So we didn't get that. We've had now 3 to 4 special agents on the stand from Homeland Security. I said, okay, good. We got Homeland Security up here. I know they're about to tell us the things that we can see what is the criminal enterprise. We see all the F shit. I never know what to say on YouTube because I just want to cut straight out. Okay. But we see all of that. We see all the stuff that he's doing. We see all the stuff he's being accused of. We see all the stuff, man. You wild. You were wild. You wilding out. Something wrong with you. We see all of that. That does not equal criminal enterprise. So we're waiting to see it. So they got at least four to five special agents on the witness stand from Homeland Security. And so I'm like, okay, good. First two, I'm like, okay, good. They are now going to give us the stuff where we can say, oh, okay, there's a criminal enterprise. There it is. After I was disappointed with the first two, I gave up hope. And I can tell you right now, every special agent that has testified has not done any of what I just said. So I'm like, what are we doing? Right? So it's just been a letdown to say the least. Hold on one second. I'm gonna check and see if we have any update on the X side of where all of this is being tracked. I was starting to think her feed may have broken. But let's go and see what this new update on the CN. So prosecutor called their next best. Oh, speak, and I had to speak it up. Another special agent from Homeland Security. We're gonna see what this person does because, like I said, I have no expectations. I don't even have low expectations. I have no expectations that this person from Homeland Security is going to deliver anything that's going to be like, okay, now this is what we're talking about. Show us the proof that you have to support some of these charges, because each and every one of these special agents that have gotten on the stand from Homeland Security, they have not done that. So we're going to see what this one does. But yeah, and I'm going to switch over to another X thread because the one we were using, I don't know what's up. with the young lady who was tracking that, but she doesn't have any recent updates. So just bear with me as I switch over to that. But in the interim, let me share with you all a video from Torre. And Torre was talking about Kanye showing up to trial. And now people are thinking that when Jane was on the stand talking about she was at a freak off with another iconic rapper, people are thinking that she's talking about Kanye and his wife. So hold on one second. Let me share that with you all. Here we go.
Trial continued. The circus that is the Diddy trial continued with Kanye West trying to get in. I don't think we need to be precious anymore about who the rapper was who's having a relationship with Anton with his wife. Kanye showed up to support Diddy, walked in, tried to get into the courtroom, couldn't, and left after about 40 minutes. It is quite interesting that Ye decided to show up after he was alluded to yesterday. I mean, if you're Diddy, why would you even want Kanye's support? He's just released a song called Heil the Mustache Man. If he's on your side, what are you doing? With friends like him, who needs enemies? I mean, I think it's telling that the only celebrity who showed up to support this man was that man.
Yeah, but he was there. And it makes you wonder because, pardon me, no one else, and you can't blame them. Nobody else has showed up to support the Diddy. And of course, Diddy's son would greet him. Anyway, people. Anyway. All right. So we're gonna follow another thread on X because the one we were following, I don't know, they must be having some challenges. So we're gonna switch over to Inner City Press and it'll probably have some of the updates we've already seen when we were reading the CNN update, but let's just look at it here. Okay. We're gonna go here. We definitely covered this part, but let's just start here. How do you feel about Mr. Combs? Brendan said it's complicated. The prosecutor said no further questions. And Brendan Paul leaves the stand. Okay, that's where he ended. And before we get into this Homeland Security agent that they're calling up next, let's just quickly, few seconds. Brendan Paul. We waited on Brendan Paul for days. The alleged drug mule of Diddy, drug mule who was carrying uh, a small amount of cocaine for personal use. I don't know if you would call that a drug mule. Some of this stuff is sensationalized. Okay. We waited for days to hear from Brendan Paul. And at the end of the day, Brendan Paul got on that stand and didn't tell us anything that we don't already know. There's freak offs, there's drugs. According to these witnesses who were around Jane and some of these other people, didn't seem unwilling in any of the stuff that was going down from what they could see. From what they could see. Um, yeah, and they worked long hours. There was nothing new. All that anticipation, and this has been a lot with this trial. All of the anticipation for Brendan Paul, the alleged drug mule, all the anticipation for his testimony. And it was womp, womp, womp. So next up, we have an agent from Homeland Security. And like I've just stated earlier, this will, if it follows the path of what the testimony has been from other Homeland Security agents, This is also going to be a letdown. But let's see. Maybe this one will prove me wrong. Okay. The government may call its next witness. The prosecutor said first some exhibits. They're reading text between Combs and KK. Diddy says, I can't take it no more. Album not done. KK said, you can have release after the studio. We control our energy. Combs said, whatever, get me Frank. Play the audio message by Mr. Combs, and it's Combs' voice. Have Jonathan do it. KK replies, John will go to the hotel. Prosecutor, we have a bit more, then we request a break. Judge said, okay. A message is shown on the screen involving Veronica Bangs, then taken down. After reading, Miss Ventura says, you bashed my head in. Combs says, you're crazy. Stop talking, flipping on me for what? We're taking a break? Miss Ventura said, I don't want to be beaten down for standing up or ever. Diddy said, I try to figure out how to get this nut out. What? Prosecutor still reading, no witnesses on the stand. Miss Ventura, all I wanted was to have a good time, and you took all your anger out on me as per usual. You dragged me down the hall by my hair. This is not play fighting anymore. I was serious about Rita coming over. What are they talking about? Prosecutor's reading. It said, Boris had to tackle you, Puff. That's not love. That's possession. I have bleeding cuts. And this is from Combs to Cassie. I'm not going to let someone shit on me when all I've done is be nice. You don't treat me like the king. You was acting like a bee. Prosecutor then, still reading from from Cassie, said, talk to your people and they'll tell you, or they won't. Okay, so this is Cassie telling Diddy, talk to your people and they'll tell you, or they won't, since all they do is suck you. I asked to have my record come out after 1,000,000 years. The defense attorney said, I would like to read other portions of those exhibits. Prosecutor said, may I confer with Ms. Garagos? The judge says, of course. They take a slight break. Then the judge says, okay. Then there's a break. Then with the jury out, the defense team says, we want to read in the text in the next page, Ms. Ventura saying, I love our FOs when we both want them. Judge, they're in evidence, but for some reason we are just reading these to the jury. There was no objection by the defense. The defense attorney said, this leaves a prejudicial impression with the jury. Judge said, what's your basis for what you want to do? We didn't know they were only going to read portions. You just want to read the 4 messages. Garagos said, yes. Let me tell y'all, this is something that the prosecution did the other day. They read all of these text messages. They call these people summary witnesses, but they're like paralegals to take the stand on behalf of the government, where all they're supposed to do is look at all of this information, all these text messages, put it together in a chart, and they're supposed to present it to the jury in a way that they can like easily understand it, right? So that's their job. So these people got on the stand last week, and they were sharing these text messages from Diddy that were, of course, supporting the prosecution's case. The defense attorneys then got up and read things that were also text messages that they left out that would make some of those conversations look totally different. So the prosecution intentionally only submitted parts of the text exchange, not the whole thing. So the defense had to come behind and say, was this in your chart? A witness for the government said no. They said, was this in your chart? No. Was this? No. What about this? No. So if I were on the jury, I would feel like I can't trust what y'all are sharing with me in these text messages because y'all are being selective. Because if the defense then stands up and shares all of these text messages that basically either flips what the prosecution shared with me, or at least give me another side of what was going on at that time, how do you trust it? How do you trust it at all? So this is what the defense attorney is talking about right now. They're reading messages, but they're being very selective in the portion of the message that they're selecting, and the defense is pushing back on that, and as well they should. Okay, so the judge said, I think it's fair for the defense to read the 4 messages. The prosecutor said, I didn't intend to be misleading. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Because it was glaring last week that the prosecution only read parts of messages that favored their side of the case. That's what they did. And like I said, to me, if for the prosecution, they would have done better to include the whole message, because I, as a juror, then will give more credibility to what you're saying to me, instead of the defense coming on after you and saying they didn't tell y'all everything. Okay. So the prosecutor said, I didn't intend to be misleading. So if your court is saying these four should be read, I should be the one to read them. So again, they take another break. Let's see what's happening after that. The jury re-enters. The prosecutor says, let me read again. I had read the wrong version. Clean it up. Miss Ventura to Mr. Combs, you want to party and have a good time. I have to focus, or I'm never becoming anything. You treat me like a hooker for 10 years. I love our FOs. For the people in the back, I love our FOs when we both want it. Now you can read that one or two ways. You could read that as she's saying, I'm doing this against my will. But you want them, because remember, I told you, Cassie testified on the stand herself that, she was okay with the FO. She didn't like how frequently he wanted to do them. Right? She didn't like that. But she was down with the freak offs. She just didn't like him, like, he acting like he's some damn maniac and got to do this shit every day, multiple times a day in some instances. That's the part she was not down with. Okay. The government then calls Joseph Cercillo. I'm just gonna screw that up. So let's just call him Joseph. The government calls Joseph a Homeland Security investigation, 18 years. I'm telling you right now, don't get your hopes up. Don't get your hopes up. Everybody who has been called from Homeland Security investigations has come up here and said a bunch of nothing. So, and I want this person, Joseph, to prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. Okay. How many records have you reviewed for the charts in this trial? He said thousands. What is the only female name in this chart? And Joseph said Jane. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Hopefully this thread is getting updated a little bit sooner. The prosecutor said, turn off the public screens. All these exhibits must be provided by Monday, June 23rd. No time given. Will be on alert and published. The prosecutor said, what's the name of the hotel? Joseph said, One Hotel, South Beach, Field Pines, May 22 through 23rd, 2021, $3,050.90 for one night. Wow. Definitely above my pay grade. Prosecutor said, and this flight, Joseph said it was Jane by JetBlue from New York to Miami. With the public screens off, play the Instagram videos. And we can hear loud music. Does the metadata match up? And Joseph from Homeland Security said yes. Okay. Okay. All right, so we're waiting now just to see what comes up after that. Let me check real quick to see if we have a CNN update. Well, one thing we can definitely do as we wait for an update, does the metadata match up? Yes. Let's see what people are saying in the comments on X. Basically, foundational statements. Homeland Security agent reviewed thousands of records. Only female name in the chart is Jane, likely referring to a key victim or witness. Prosecution is tying her directly to the evidence. Whatever. Updates taking forever. Yes, they are. Okay, this is the guy who's on the stand. Okay. Can we question why was Diddy bail as a first-time offender denied? Just fire this whole court division at this point. Yeah, I do think Diddy not getting bail was like wrong. When you consider, first of all, the other people with similar charges have gotten bail. I don't understand why they didn't give Diddy bail. I'm not heartbroken that he's not out on bail, because like I said, I don't think Diddy's a good guy at all. But I'm also on the side of I want to see due process, and I want to see if you're charged with certain crimes, you need to have evidence to support those crimes that this person is being charged with, right? We just can't say, okay, we're going to charge him with RICO, and then we're going to show you he's a dirt bag, and because he is a dirt bag, then you should find him guilty of RICO. That I don't support. That I don't support. Finding him guilty of prostitution, which is one of the charges. Yep, I feel like that's a slam dunk. But this other stuff is up in the air. But one thing I have learned from watching trials is that at the end of the day, you never really know what a jury's going to do. You know, so even with us saying, even with me saying the prostitution charge is a slam dunk, they got them. At the end of the day, you never know what a jury is going to do. You never know. I've seen it more than once where you think, oh, this is going to happen or that is going to happen, and the jury does the exact opposite thing. Let's see. Hopefully we can finish on by one, maybe final witness for the government. Then defense case is supposed to last 2 to 5 days. Closings could happen next week, depending on the pace. Just imagine that, y'all. This case could be over next week. It could be over next week. We could, I don't know how quick it will take if Diddy is convicted to sentence him, but this could all be over next week. Let's say you reviewed, this person commented, you reviewed thousands of records for this trial alone. Man, get this line goof off the stand. Continue, prosecutor. Okay. Yeah, it's I don't know if you reviewed thousands of things for this. I don't know how painful that had to be, because all of it's so redundant. All of it is so redundant. Okay, we're still waiting. We are still waiting. So while we're waiting, and I'll check, let me just check for us to see if CNN has any update on their side. And they do not. So while they're waiting, let's talk about our favorite person, KK. Where's KK, y'all? Where is she? Why has the prosecution not called her as a witness? Why? Why has she not been charged as a co-conspirator? Why? Is this woman getting a pass? And if she is getting a pass, is it because she did give maybe the government information? Although, y'all, what information would she give them? And I'm saying it that way because all of the witnesses who have testified, they put her and Diddy at the center of a lot of this stuff we're talking about. And I'm talking specifically about the prostitution, the freak offs, the drugs, some of the incidents of like domestic violence where she was basically a part of covering that up, because she was a part of that too. So all of that she was involved in, and we have not seen this woman yet. What's up with that? What's up with that? So I don't even know if they made some kind of deal. I mean, what information would she give? I mean, because everything we've heard on the stand, I'm not able to connect that dot as to why have we not. So what I'm thinking is maybe, and I need to ask somebody who's a lawyer who may know, are they waiting to see if they get a conviction on Diddy? And then if they get a conviction, then they're going to charge her as a co-conspirator? Is that what they're doing? Maybe the assumption is if he's found not guilty, or depending on which charges he's found guilty of, that charging her will not even be worth the money, because if you can't convict Diddy for doing the thing, then how do you convict her as a co-conspirator? So are they maybe waiting to charge her? All I know is KK is a main character in what we've heard over these 6 weeks. So to not see her at all, Ah, it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. Let me see if we have any update yet on this particular feed. Uh, okay. Yeah, we do. Oh, no, we don't. It's the same one. So we're still waiting. We're still waiting. And I would say, in addition to KK, the other person that I'm like, okay, where are you? Is D Rock, security. Where's the Bonds guy who Casey said, who's also part of security, who Cassie said when she tried to escape Diddy, I think he had beat her up in an Escalade that time. This dude supposedly came and got her and took her back to Diddy. Where is he? But I mean, I don't understand it. I don't understand why we haven't seen KK. I don't understand why we haven't seen anybody from his security team. So maybe, like I said, maybe they're waiting to get the conviction that they're hoping to get on Diddy, and then maybe they're going to charge these folks as co-conspirators after they get their guilty conviction. That's me just guessing, because honestly, at this point, I have no idea what they're doing at all. At all. So meanwhile, while we wait, I am going to check and see if we have any other update, because we're still waiting at this point. Um yeah, I was just trying to see if we had anything. Hold on, let me switch us to something else that we can view while we wait for a testimony to pick back up. And they were going so fast earlier, so I hate this part of it when it gets so slow. I don't know which trial we're going to do next, if I'll be invested in another trial. I've been looking at some of the ones that are coming up. Uh, the one with the 4 college students that starts in August. But I don't know if I want to do that, because that may be a little bit too heavy. I don't know. I don't know. That may be more than my spirit wants to take on. So I'll have to think about that. Uh, but meanwhile, I'm just gonna pull up here. Let's see. I'm just trying to make it a little bit. Okay. All right. So we'll take a look at some of those statements there. But while we try to get to, and I was hoping Law and Crime would even do something on, like, where's KK? Let's see. Lopez, problem with meds for the brain. We think too much about. It's not secondhand. So what? I'm not sure. This is something about people. Bipolar people tend to just miss the mania, rush, and high, which is why they stop their meds. Who are we talking about? Denise, are you talking about bipolar? I don't know if they're talking about Diddy in these comments, but at one point, um, there was someone said that Diddy was bipolar. I don't know if that was ever truly said officially, though. Bipolar. Okay, we read that. Yep, and I have to say, I understand that bipolar people from the outside, it's so easy to say, just take your meds. I severed my kneecap because a friend that started to be a maniac, and she was obese. I tried to duck and I hurt my knee. Okay, honey, are you just trying to be funny here? What are we talking about? What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Okay. I am going to see if I can get back to the other thread that we were following to see, maybe now, since this thread is down on X, maybe this person is back up and running. So let me just check right quick to see if we are up and running on the other feed. I thank you all so much for stopping by and being a part of this live. I definitely appreciate it. Please thumbs up the live. Please drop a comment, even if it is just to say hello. And if you are not a subscriber or to the channel already, please consider subscribing. I would definitely, definitely, definitely appreciate the support. And I'm going to try to get to another reason why they might be so slow too. Court might be ready to come to an end because from what I understand, today is supposed to be like a half day. So maybe that's why things appear to be kind of slowing down a bit. Maybe. And I'm checking now just to see if we have any other updates, y'all, that we can lean into here. But today, like I said, today we finally got Brendan Paul on the stand, and yeah, it wasn't a lot, y'all. It just wasn't. It just wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't really anything. It was redundant of all the things we had heard before. That's what it was. That's exactly what it was. Yeah. And the person that I was following, in addition to Inner City Press, there must be something going on with her feed because it is not updating anymore. Yeah. It is not updating anymore. So let me check. And just check one more thing here. All right, I'm trying to check her out. Let me just make sure. Maybe it's not something on my side. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going through right now and seeing everything we've already covered. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this. Let me drop a note so she could just know her thread is broken. All right. Okay, y'all, let me just check one. CNN does have an update. Let's see what's going on. Okay, let's hop over to the CNN side so we could at least see what is on there. All right, let me flip over just so you all can get back there. My apologies. Normally the X thread, especially the one I've been using lately, is pretty current and timely. So I'm not really sure what's happening right now. She must have run into some type of challenge or something. But meanwhile, we do have another source. So don't just hold on. We do have another source we can use. And we're going to go to the CNN screen again just to look at the live update. And I'm sharing that on your screen. All right, so let's take a look at what we have here. Okay. Joseph, who is a Homeland Security agent, part of Homeland Security investigations, explained the chart includes the location, individuals' names, and transportation records associated with different date ranges. Joseph is reviewing charts of evidence compiled by the prosecutors to confirm the information in the charts corresponds with underlying exhibits, which include thousands of pages of text messages as well as phones and financial records. He said the 44 entries on the chart range from May 2021 to August 2024, and the only woman's name on the chart is Jane. He said before accuser Cassie's lawsuit was filed, most of the locations were hotels. After her lawsuit was filed, none of them were hotels. told you that's the only thing this Diddy learned from that Cassie situation. That's the only thing he learned. Don't use hotels. Joseph said there were 3 of these events after Combs posted an Instagram video on May 19th, 2024. Remember, Combs apologized for physically assaulting his then girlfriend Cassie 2 days after CNN published exclusive hotel surveillance video from 2016 in which Combs appeared to grab, shove, drag, and kick her. Joseph testified that the charts do not include every time Jane or Combs were at a particular location, but these were the instances with documentation to support it. Remember, the chart Joseph is testifying about is similar to the chart Agent Penland, a special agent, testified about. Excuse me, I don't know why I have hiccups all of a sudden. Okay. So still more the same. In court today. Okay, Brendan is off the stand. Trial timeline. Court was called off Wednesday after a juror called out sick. The judge previously said he believed the case could go to the jury sometime next week, but the Wednesday delay potentially throws a major wrench into the trial scheduling. Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that include racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking. If convicted on all counts, he could face up to life in prison. We'll see what the jury does. John Legend speaks out over Sean Diddy Combs' abuse. So let's see what John had to say. I have not seen this.
Great. Let's go with that one.
Sometimes it takes a different approach to see the possibilities all around you.
Thanks.
With Capella University's FlexPath format, you can pursue a business degree on your terms and use the skills you learn right away. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University.
There seems to be a lot now in your industry trying to look inwards to how women are treated. And I'm talking specifically about the latest about Sean Diddy Combs. You were on his last album. Are you also feeling that the idea of the abuse of women, domestic partner abuse, it needs to be really handled once and for all and not swept under the carpet as it has been for so long? Let's just say in your industry.
Oh, well, I was horrified by the allegations that I heard about Mr. Combs and, of course, horrified by the video evidence that was released after that. But I was horrified by the descriptions that I read before the video.
Let me just say this before he continues. I don't think I like the wording of her question, but because in his industry, first of all, the need to stop domestic violence, period, is a human problem. That is a problem, a world problem, in fact. But it's not limited to industry. I don't know. It just felt like to me like she was really trying to focus on like maybe the rap or music industry and that type of thing. And granted, a lot of that takes place there, but I don't know. I don't think you need to underscore it because domestic violence is a huge problem and it's a huge problem across the board. So maybe I'm being a little too sensitive about her question, but it just felt it didn't feel like it was worded the best.
Latest about Sean Diddy Combs, you were on his last album. Are you also feeling that the idea of the abuse of women, domestic partner abuse, it needs to be really handled once and for all and not swept under the carpet as it has been for so long? Let's just say in your industry.
Oh, well, I was horrified by the allegations that I heard about Mr. Combs and, of course, horrified by the video evidence that was released after that. But I was horrified by the descriptions that I read before the video evidence came out, and absolutely is something that needs to be brought to light when it happens. And my default stance is to believe women when they make these accusations, and to make sure that we do whatever we can to support women who are making these allegations, and make sure that they're heard, and that any kind of accountability and reparations can be made to make these women whole again. It's shameful what Mr. Combs has been accused of, and you know, I only want the best for Cassie, but also for all the other victims that have alleged that he's abused them. It's really tough to see those descriptions and to see those videos. It's quite a shame, and I really just want accountability and hopefully some healing for all of his victims.
Why was she looking at him like that? Why was she looking at him like that? Okay. All right. So let's see if we have any other update anywhere here. And I really think they're about to shut down for the day. So let me just check quickly and see if we have any other update. Okay. We do. Let me switch us back over to the X thread. Just 1 second. It is, I don't know why it's moving so slow today, but let's just check it out. I'm gonna switch over to the X feed so we all can follow along there. Okay, so the prosecutor, where we left off, we were talking about the Homeland Security guy being asked, does the metadata match up? He's looking at some type of Instagram message that the court cannot see, the people in the courtroom cannot see. The prosecutor asks, what's the name? Joseph says, Jessica Ruiz, Mr. Combs' travel agent. What was the charges for losses and damages? He said $6,000. Who flew on this one? He said Jane and Cabral. Jane from LA to Miami to LA, and Cabral, he said Atlanta. Note, while prosecutor and Joseph go back and forth about exhibits that are not being shown to the public, here's one Jane message the prosecutors just belatedly made available. You wanna get a party going before you spend the weekend with a boring chick? What? Here's one Jane message. Okay, this is a message from Jane. A message from Jane saying, you want to get a party going before you spend the weekend with a boring chick. But she's the victim. Okay. The prosecutor said, what is this? He said, hotel damage report at London Hotel from room 229. The report says bodily fluid spread on the floor. Nasty. Pictures attached as evidence. Then the prosecutor said names column. The Homeland Security guy said Jane, Combs, Reggie, Paul. These are security people. Reggie is security. I don't know. I can't. All of these probably sex workers. Jane, Combs, Reggie, Paul, and Cabral. Public screens off again, likely explicit. This is wow. This is wow. What is this? The Homeland Security person says hotel damage report at London Hotel room 229. The report says bodily fluids spread on the floor. This is nasty. Pictures attached as evidence. Name in the name column. The prosecutor asking, what are the names in the name column on this chart? He said Jane, Combs, Reggie, Paul, and Cabral. Somebody else said, oh my God, what fluids? Oh, that's so nasty. That's so nasty. My first thought is I was thinking like somebody's time of the month, but who the hell knows? Somebody could comment a bunch of nasties, just gross, beyond disgusting. Was it drugged baby oil? We don't know. We don't know. Or drugged lubricants. Somebody else said free Diddy. Body fluid spread on the floor. That's so nasty. That's so nasty. That's so nasty. And one of the what's up with this dude's hairstyle? And one of the other assistants had testified about having to clean up a room and there was blood in the room. And he asked Combs, I think, what was that? And he said that it was the person on their cycle. Just disgusting. Just disgusting. Oh. Let's see. Somebody said, "Come on, Brendan. You left." Oh, I cannot read that. I cannot say that out loud. Y'all, if y'all are following this live, you're going to have to read that for yourself because I cannot say that. Come on, Brendan. You left blank and blank juice on the floor and they took pictures of it. That's probably one of the times you got fired. Somebody said, "Are you gonna rub that body fluids on your nipple?" It's so nasty. The government's pulling a fast one. The judge has no. Okay, y'all, these people in these comments kind of turn up a little bit. I'm like, okay, y'all saying a whole lot. All right, let's just see right here if we have any other update. Okay. Somebody said this helps establish RICO by showing Diddy's travel agent coordinated interstate trips for Jane and others, tying him to organized movement and control, all key elements in a criminal enterprise. I don't know about that. Somebody else said, bingo. They said, even with all this information, it still doesn't prove anything beyond a reasonable doubt. Somebody said, I don't get it. RICO would be he's moving drugs and sex workers in order to sell them, i.e., an enterprise. He was a consumer, not the salesman. If that counts as RICO, the law is wrong. Get him for domestic abuse, for buying drugs, but not for having hobbies. Okay, these are wild hobbies. Puff does not own the travel agency, LOL, to be a part of the enterprise, LOL. So people are disagreeing with that statement too. I tell you, that's why I say outside of the prostitution charge, everything else is up in the air. You have some people, especially even some lawyers, who are like, they've proven RICO. Then you have other lawyers saying, no, they haven't. And I can tell you from what I'm seeing, just as far as like just the public opinion, I feel like the majority of the public does not feel like they've proven RICO. From what I see, I don't feel like people feel like they've proven RICO. So I don't know how symbolic that might be of what the jury is thinking, but from what I've seen, it doesn't feel like a lot of people feel like the government has proven that this person is guilty of RICO. So there's that. But this is so nasty though. These people had to have all kinds of diseases, all kinds of infections. Well, Cassie testified to some of her stuff. And Jane testified a little bit, I think, about some of the stuff going on with her. But, oh my gosh. Can you imagine? Just like what diseases these people had to have? Just nasty. In that time of the month, not stopping anything, then you're urinating in people's mouths and all this stuff. This is just, I'm sorry. It's just disgusting. It's just disgusting. Normally I say, hey, whatever you into, that's on you. But there's some things I'm like, okay, now. Okay, now this is doing a lot. It's doing a whole lot. Okay. Um, Let me just go back to the thread and see if we have an update. I was trying to check for us in other places too to see if we had any kind of update. Mm, come on, come on. Okay, no, we're still waiting. So somebody else said, Jade Ram, what is this? Oh, it's supposed to be Jane, I guess. Gina, Cameron, Misa, Young Miami, Daphne Joy. Yeah. Misa Hilton, Gina. I don't know, Jade Ramey. I don't know who that is if they're not intending for it to be Jane. And I'm glad they did not put Kim Porter on this chart. Uh, Jane and Cabral Jane from LA. Okay. Flued out. Trafficking, consenting adults having a freaky life. Legal note, judge just told government all these exhibits must be made public by Monday, June 23rd. Why? Because yesterday major new media wrote to the judge claiming government is not acting in good faith by release exhibits to the public. Okay. You got to release it. There is no private trial. You got to release it. So, okay. All right, y'all. Let me see. And this also, like the pace at which this is going right now, this is also why I like to sometimes do my live like once everything is over. So we could just kind of get through everything and not have these long pauses. Um, which is what I'll probably do on Monday. Okay. Let's see here. What is this? Hold on. Okay, we've done that part. We've also read this part too. Yeah. So we're still just waiting. Let me see if anything is going on any of these other channels. I'll tell you what we can do. I'm gonna switch over while we're waiting. Um I don't know if I can follow that trial either. The one with the stabbing and the teenagers at the track meet. I don't know. I don't know if I can follow that either because that one may be too much for me to try to consume because some of this stuff can get real heavy and I don't want to, I don't want to go into too many of these dark spaces because it's just a lot. So while we're waiting on there to be an update, I tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to tap into a Law and Crime Network episode just to see. And it's prior to the day, so it's just to see if they're giving us any updates. Maybe we'll get some kind of update on KK.
Have they proven racketeering conspiracy? Have they proven transportation to engage in prostitution? That's what we're going to talk about. So before I bring in my all-star panel that I have with me, I'm first going to start off with our in-court reporter, Law and Crime's very own Elizabeth Milner. Elizabeth, so good to see you. What happened? What happened? We were supposed to have court today.
I know. I was truly surprised because every day I wake up, or try to at least wake up at 4 a.m., get here by 6:30. We're all ready to go. I have my notepad, I have my pen, I'm ready. The judge gets on the bench and he's like, a juror is sick. And so we're going to adjourn for the day. Now, as far as just the more kind of reasons as far as what really happened, the judge gets on the bench and he says this juror was on his way to court this morning. What we did know about this particular juror is he is one of the alternates, but he did get sick on his way to court this morning. He had vertigo and then he turned back around to go home. And so they're kind of monitoring the situation right now. There's no need, as far as further action goes. They're just waiting to see and make sure that the juror is okay to continue on Friday, and then possibly have more discussions just about what had happened if that juror isn't able to get better. But hopefully the juror is able to get better so that way court can begin on Friday. But really today, Jesse, court was about 30 minutes long. I mean, outside of the judge revealing to everyone that a juror is sick, and so we're going to adjourn for the day, which, by the way, both sides did agree upon this. And so what ended up happening is probably he sat down on the bench by 9 o'clock, 9:30. We were all out of the courtroom and everyone was kind of like, oh, well, we have another free day because then we don't have court tomorrow too. So it was a pretty interesting turn of events today, even though there was absolutely no testimony today.
Yep, because tomorrow's Juneteenth, so no court. So what does that do to the schedule? Don't they want to be finished by what, July 4th? I mean, do they realistically believe that's going to wrap up? Because you have how long's the defense's case going to be? You have closing arguments, you have jury instructions. Talk to us about how this messes up the whole schedule.
Yeah, it really kind of does shift everything, especially because not only do we not have court on Thursday, but Friday's kind of a smaller, shorter schedule. We're only going to court from 9 to 1 because one of the jurors is celebrating, I think, their child's graduation. So that's pretty exciting. But as far as just the delay of the case, it really is kind of pushing everything a little bit back. So first of all, the government planned on resting their case today, but that was before the cross-examination of Special Agent Alyssa Penland kind of took a little bit longer than I think the government had planned. And then they were planning to call Brendan Paul on the stand and then another summary witness. So as far as just even that, we haven't even heard from Brendan Paul just yet. So I assume now that we didn't have court today that he'll take up much of Friday, if not all of Friday, because he still has to do his cross-examination, even though the prosecution said that his direct will only be about an hour and a half or 90 minutes.
A few hours ago, they announced that, the drug mule, the white boy that got arrested last year, the Diddy drug mule, they saying that he about to testify against him.
Man, Brendan Paul, who was one of Diddy's alleged drug trafficking mules. I thought when they caught him that it may have been some government agency or somebody that was feeding him the drugs. So they're going to know about how much drugs, they're going to know how much money that went through his hands to Diddy and from Diddy now. Now, when Diddy hears this testimony of this guy who was a former basketball player, I think he played ball at Syracuse or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Syracuse. Yep.
Yep. So him being caught at the airport, you understand, with drugs on him, who does that? All of it to me seems like a blatant setup, but he's going to be one of the witnesses for the prosecution.
I would actually agree with that because I thought Brendan's testimony about how he didn't mean to put the little pack of cocaine in his bag because he normally doesn't, and then he did, and then oops, I forgot I had it in my bag before I got on the plane. It just felt real. I don't know. Something about that testimony felt off. So maybe it was a part of a setup. Maybe his deal with the prosecution or the government didn't start after that arrest. Maybe it started before that arrest.
And he could tie up the drugs. He could tie up the drugs, bro. So now, this is what I believe. When he gets on the stand, he's going to tell what drugs he brought to Diddy. He's going to tell what drugs he he was given, how much money he was given, and when he does that, how did they pay him? Even if somebody, the security person paid him, they still gave the money to the security person out of either the bad boy money or either out of.
Well, and he did testify to those things, but so did other witnesses. So I think even emphasizing what makes Brendan Paul a quote unquote drug mule, and they're not calling the other assistants who also either went and purchased drugs illegally, like prescription drugs for Diddy, or either just got other drugs from dealers. I mean, other assistants did the same thing that Brendan Paul did. So why is Brendan Paul being called a drug mule, but the others are not? I'm not understanding.
Out of Combs Enterprise or Combs Global. They used his businesses to purchase drugs, bro. When Brendan sit on that stand, it's gonna be the end of it, bro. It's gonna be the end of it. I predict that he probably stand up. Did he tell tell the government, man, listen, give me my time, bro. Give me something. I don't want to do this. And if they offer him 10 years, because they're going to double what they offered him at first. They was offering him 5 years. They might offer him 10. If they offer him 10, he better take it. Because if he don't, he going to be in the jail anywhere from 50.
First, I have not seen, and I don't know what Gene Dale is talking about. I have not seen anything official or anything at all suggesting that they offered Diddy 5 years. I have not seen that at all. Also, let me just say again, since this, and I know Gene Deal was saying this before Brendan Paul took the stand, but now since we've gotten Brendan's testimony, Brendan did not bring to this thing. He did not bring to this party any more, in my opinion, than any of the other assistants brought to it. He was doing the same things the other assistants was doing. Yes, he was picking up drugs for Diddy. Yes, he was trying to even get prescription drugs filled illegally. Yes, he was trying to do that. Yes, he was setting up hotel rooms for freak offs. Yes, 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 and yes. So, and he didn't, quite frankly, he did not even see a lot of what some of the other assistants saw, or where they were there like firsthand and saw, some of the DV stuff and stuff like that. So, I don't know why they're trying to make such a big deal, the government, out of Brendan Paul, and why they're calling him a drug mule. I'm almost thinking it's an appearance thing. I think it's almost like, look, we got this assistant, this young white man from a wealthy family who went to Syracuse University. He's an ex basketball player. I was glad Brendan got up there and said, well, I just sat on the bench. Brendan may be cool. None of this may be Brendan's fault at all. But it's just interesting to me how they're putting so much emphasis on Brendan Paul, like he's this huge, significant witness. He's Diddy's alleged drug mule. Why? Why is he being characterized and positioned like that when all of the other assistants were doing the exact same things he testified to and more? So it's just something's going on there. I don't know if it's something the government is trying to do with him and perception with the jury or credibility. I don't know, but it's weird.
15 to 22 years.
And you called it too. You said that last year.
Because they're going to double what they offered him at first. They was offering him 5 years. They might offer him 10. If they offer him 10, he better take it. Because if he don't, he's going to be in the jail anywhere from 15 to 22 years.
And you called it too. You said that last year.
Let me tell y'all something. Diddy's never going to do 15 to 22 years in prison. I'd be willing to take that bet. If Diddy gets convicted, I don't even care if he's sentenced to that. Well, let me put it this way. First of all, I think Donald Trump is going to pardon this man if he gets convicted. I do believe that. I think the probability of Donald Trump giving Diddy a pardon is really high. even with everything that's going on in the world, not just the United States, everything that's going on in the world, especially with Iran and Israel, I think that president that we have right now would take time out of his schedule and pardon Diddy. I do believe that. I think the probability is high. I just cannot see him spending those amount of years in prison. Not to mention, he's got to first be convicted of some of the more serious charges. And like I said, outside of prostitution, to me, everything else is kind of up in the air.
Sure, that they was going to use him to testify against Diddy. What you think about Diddy drug mule taking a plea deal?
What I believe and what I think, he wasn't just a drug mule, he was a plant. He's a CI.
I believe this. I believe this because that also supports why are y'all positioning Brendan Paul like he's something special and significant? Why are y'all doing that? So, just like I said a few seconds ago, I'm thinking, is it because it's a perception thing? Is it you're trying to present this certain package to the jury and hoping that maybe they'll find him more of a credible witness? But I think what Gene Deal is saying here probably makes the most sense. That we thought, oh, when he got snapped and arrested on that private plane going to the family vacation with Diddy and had that cocaine on him, he probably cut a deal to get out of trouble. That's what we all thought, or that's what most of us thought anyway. How if the deal with the government started way before that even happened, and him forgetting he had a little small pack of cocaine on him? Oopsie, he forgot. Was all a part of the plan with the government. Sounds plausible to me.
That's a confidential informant. He already had a case prior to him getting that case with Diddy and them. He probably already had a handler, somebody that he was just trying to work it out. And that's what he did. They're not going to give you a deal for nothing because you got caught with the drugs, because you say they was for Diddy and them. You got to give us something. Stevie Wonder could see that shit, man. They ain't take a blind, and you know what I'm saying? Yo, Stevie Wonder could see that shit, bro. It's crazy that everything is coming to pass, but it's all God's will, bro. It's all God's will.
What you think they're going to use it for?
They're going to use him for the drug trafficking and the transferring of the money coming from either Combs Global or Bad Boy Entertainment.
They definitely did that. I think he said, what was it? Some of it came from Combs Enterprises. So they definitely did that. But they also did that again with other witnesses, other assistants who worked for Diddy.
Bro, he already had a case. He had a case. Somebody probably got in his ear. Yo, we can get this stuff thrown out. We can get you this, that, and the third. You ain't got to do no jail time. We just want you to go over here and see what they doing at Bad Boy, at Puff. Let them know you can get drugs and this, that, and the third, the whole 9 yards. He became a worker. He probably working for Puff and working some kind of CI at already. How they know he was going to be at the airport?
Talk on it.
They had a warrant for, the search of Diddy's home. He not part of Diddy's home. He a friend. He a visitor. How they know they were selling drugs? How they know they stopped him at the airport? He was going to have drugs on him.
Now, there's no testimony about Diddy and Brendan Paul selling drugs. So I just want to be clear about that. Because if that was the case, if Brendan Paul was a real drug mule as we think of drug mules, and he had kilos of cocaine or a lot of marijuana or whatever, and he was getting that to Diddy, and Diddy was a part of some drug ring, then we're like, okay, now we finally see the criminal enterprise. Okay, now y'all talking along the lines we would like to hear associated with these charges that y'all have. This guy had a little small pack. This is his testimony, a small bag of cocaine that was just for Diddy's personal use, not for distribution. Still illegal, but there's a big difference between trafficking kilos of drugs and you being found in possession of a small amount of drugs for your personal use. It's a big difference.
Don't take a rocket scientist, bro.
So that's that. So hold on, let's see. I think we do have an update from CNN, and I know they're getting close to quitting because they're supposed to end at 1 o'clock today. Because somebody on the jury has a graduation to attend. So hold on, I'm gonna switch you guys back over to CNN so that we can read the latest update. Just a second. Here we go. All right. So Joseph, still with the Homeland Security investigations, testified that he reviewed documents related to a hotel stay that Diddy Combs had in Los Angeles in January 2023. Hotel records showed the room was reserved under the name Joseph Chavez and included a $3,750 charge for damaged furniture. A report from the hotel said there were bodily fluids stained on the wood floor. He's so nasty, just nasty. Nasty. Okay. A report from the hotel said there were bodily fluids stained on the wood floor across the entire room and on some of the furniture. The evidence chart referenced some of Combs' text messages with Jane, one of his accusers, who is using a pseudonym in this trial. The messages showed the two coordinating the arrival of 3 men at the hotel. One of those men deposited $1,500 cash at ATMs in Los Angeles in the days following the hotel reservation. The jury also saw a message Combs sent to Jane telling her to send $1,100 to Cowboys for Angels, an escort service, for flights and an overnight rate. Cowboys for Angels. I tell you. You know, I've been listening to people talk about what if. What if Diddy gets off? If Diddy was to get off, do you believe that he would have a turnaround? This would have been the lesson he needed or the experience he needed in order for him to get his stuff together. Do you believe that's what would happen? Or do you believe in 2.2 minutes that Diddy will be at the corner Walgreens getting more Astroglide and baby oil? What do you think? What you think gonna happen? I think if Diddy somehow was acquitted, which I don't see happening, I do not see him going to prison for life. I definitely think Trump will pardon him. I think he's going to be convicted of the prostitution charge, if nothing else. But whatever the penalty is he gets outside of the time he's already doing right now, as far as with the trial underway, I don't see Diddy giving up this lifestyle. I don't see it. I just don't see it. It's too deep with him. I just don't see it. I mean, he would have to go off somewhere to a monastery and become a monk and just do something like that, because I don't see it. I think Diddy in short order is going to be back up to his old tricks. He's going to get caught up probably in some more stuff. And maybe this time he won't be so lucky. Because remember now, what was it, 2001 maybe? When Diddy was on trial, that time we had Johnny Cochran as his lawyer and he ended up being acquitted. I think those were like gun charges or something then. And he talked back then about how it was scary and how he was worried not knowing what the jury was going to do and how he felt like it was a life-changing experience. And see where we at now today. So how life-changing it was, because whatever he was doing then seems like he done turned it all the way up now to this level of stuff he doing now. So yeah, I think Diddy will be back up to his old tricks with the quickness if he gets his freedom. All right, let's go back to the X feed because we do have a couple of updates over there. And like I said, I don't think we're gonna be much longer. Please like the live and subscribe to the channel if you are not a subscriber already. Appreciate the support. But yeah, we won't be much longer because they're supposed to end at 1 today, so that one of the jurors can attend their kids' graduation. So let's see. We left off with the special agent for Homeland Security saying the hotel damage report at London Hotel Room 229. The report says bodily fluids spread on the floor. Pictures attached as evidence. Nasty. And then in the name column, I guess this is as far as who was in that room, is Jane, Diddy, Reggie, Paul, and Cabral. So I guess those are the 3 sex workers. Prosecutor then said, in these between Paul, Arthur, and Combs, then Jane. The Homeland Security guy said Arthur Fitness LLC, an ATM cash deposit of $900, then $600. Prosecutor says in this, the special agent said more hotel damages. Fahim's cell phone was seized. The prosecutor asked Homeland Security. They said yes. Defense attorney said, Your Honor, take that one down. Public couldn't see it anyway. Can we please have a sidebar? Again? The judge tells them to take it down, and yes, another sidebar. Let's see what we have here. During the sidebar, here's another Jane message the prosecutors belatedly made available today. Okay, so let's see what Jane talking about today, because that other one we saw, she was like she wanted to give him a freak off before he went on a date with somebody else. Told y'all Jane ain't no victim. Okay. All right. I'm crying. I'm so triggered by this. Okay, we already know what this is. This is when she left him this message after reading the lawsuit that Cassie filed. I'm crying. I'm so triggered by this because it's too close to some nights I felt forced. We did not hear Jane talking this way until after Cassie's lawsuit settled. So this is testimony that we also have heard, but we're going to read this full message. But this is testimony we already have heard about Jane feeling away after she read Cassie's lawsuit, in part because she was like, wait a minute. I thought the freak offs were our thing. I thought that was our thing. So when I read her lawsuit, so you were doing the same type of things you're doing with me. You did those things with her. Yeah, I'm not the only one. Like, I thought I was. What do you mean? Like, how could this be? Because remember, Jane's testimony made it very clear from her own words in her messages and stuff that she was down with the freak offs. What else was very clear from Jane's own words in her messages, that her biggest issue was with Diddy was the fact that she was feeling as if she had to compete with other women. That was her beef. Her beef was that she felt like she was moving down on the roster. He was doing things publicly with other women, but she felt like what they did was kind of kept private. She didn't like that either. That was her beef, not the freak offs. So anyway, here's a message from her that they're showing in court today. I'm crying. I'm so triggered by this because it's too close to some nights I felt forced. No, you didn't. No, you didn't, Jane. And that's based off of what you told us. Those 4.5 days you were on the stand, based off of what you told us, you said you felt exhilarated after freak offs. So stop it. Please stop drugging and using women for your fetish nights. Now, y'all, remember what I told y'all earlier today? Jane's messages and communication and everything with Diddy, pre and post Cassie's settlement, they're night and day. Post Cassie's settlement, Jane said, "You mean to tell me you got that kind of money?" This is me thinking this is what she's thinking because I saw it in how her conversation shifted. Cassie got that kind of money for doing what I've been doing, and all you've been giving me is $10,000 a month, and she got 20 million. Oh no. Oh no. And then when I did tell you, hey, in order for us to just kind of, put a seal on like what we did over the past 3 years, just cut me a check for 400,000. He told her she was an opportunist. So she's probably like, wait a minute, I'm doing the same thing she was doing. And you gave her 20 million and you're not going to give me anything but $10,000 a month? Oh, now I feel forced. Oh, please, you gonna put in a text message to him. Please stop drugging and using women for your fetish nights. Drugging. So now he what, like he slipped some in your drink? That is not what happened, Jane. That is not what you testified to. That is not what was in your messages, Jane. It creates demons inside of us and real trauma to women who are only doing it to please you. That is a lie for Jane. That is a lie. That is anti everything that Jane said up on that stand. That is anti what she was saying in her messages. No, Jane. Let that pain on other women stop with me. Leave women alone who don't want to do those nights with you. Hire prostitutes. And well, he was hiring prostitutes, but I digress. Hire prostitutes and stop emotionally harming women that love you. This text was sent post Cassie's settlement. Jane was not talking like this at all with Diddy prior to the settlement. She felt exhilarated. She was scheduling the freak offs. For Valentine's Day, she hit him up and said, "Hey, you know what? It's Valentine's Day, and I need to show you how much I love you. So you know what? Instead of us just having Paul tonight, I'm gonna do Paul and Don at the same time, just for you, baby." And then she saw that $20 million settlement that Cassie got, and she was like, "Man, you need to stop drugging women." And I don't know if they're including Diddy's response in here, but when they testified this, when they presented this in testimony earlier, Diddy's response, and I'm paraphrasing here a bit, was basically telling her, "You trying to set me up." Duh. Yeah, she's trying to set you up for sure. In this moment, yes. With that text, yes. Still during the sidebar, here's yet another Jane message the prosecutors belatedly made available today. "You want to have me S some D so you can jet off to an island with Gina or Young Miami." What I told y'all. What I told y'all. This woman, Jane, biggest beef was the fact that she felt that she had to compete with other women for Diddy's time. She knew he had other women, that she knew that going into the situation. Diddy then told her monogamy is not on the table. I'm also polyamorous. He told her that straight off the rip. And also, let's not be, come on, y'all. We know the circles Jane was running in. We know who her baby father is. We know who else she was hooking up. Come on now. These transactional relationships, this is something that she was accustomed to. So, but it is what it is now. Here's another one. Have me do the dirty SHIT in hotel room after hotel room. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got. I would be surprised if court is still going on at this point. All right. So we had those messages. Yep. They're back, but due to stop at 3 minutes. Did Jonathan Perez send this to Fahim? The Homeland Security said yes. And this is about Anton. Is it sorted by date? He said, please sort it, Miss Becker. Okay. As they near the end of the day, prosecutors just belatedly made available exhibits, including this from Diddy. I'm not even horny no more. You know what? Who sends this message? The defense attorney. What? Okay, I'm gonna get it together, y'all. The Homeland Security investigator said, KK, what does Jonathan write to Fahim? He says, I don't know if you're holding $10,000. Fall said, trying to get some more now. And this, let's see, it was a message from 1 year ago today. The prosecutor said, Your Honor, I think this is a good stopping place since we're ending earlier today. The jurors may leave. Don't read anything. All rise. Okay. How many more on direct? To midday on Monday. I hope Ms. Garagos can finish cross by the end of the Monday. Then Rule 29 will be on the shorter side. We'll tell the government over the weekend. Okay, so they're hoping that the prosecution is hoping they'll be done with their side of the trial by Monday. If the government rests at the end of Monday, I think we'll rest Tuesday or Wednesday. Y'all, this case is going to the jury next week. We're almost there. This case is going to the jury next week. If the government rests at the end of Monday, then the defense said they think they will rest on Tuesday or Wednesday. Wow. I don't know. This is going to be one thing once they get into jury deliberation. It's and can you imagine those closing statements? Can you imagine those closing statements? I tell you what, you know who has the hardest job with their closing statements based off of everything we've heard over these 6 weeks? They're actually ending the trial a little bit early. It was initially scheduled for 8 weeks. The prosecution, to me, has the hardest job. And I guess maybe they should, because they're trying to put somebody away potentially for life, right? But they have a hard job in this case to me, because like I've said over and over and over, outside of the prostitution charge, everything else to me feels up in the air. So if the jurors feel that way, then that means at the end of these 6 weeks, well, let's go ahead and count next week. At the end of these 7 weeks, if the prosecution case actually comes down to them being able to deliver a closing statement that is so well done and weaved together so well that they convince this jury that this man is guilty of all of these charges, including racketeering and RICO, to me, that tells you that along the way, it's been a lot of gray area. It's been a lot of gray area. So we're going to see. So that is the end of the court proceedings for today. Let me flip over quickly to CNN before I end this live, just to see if we have anything else going on of note on CNN. Nope. They said defense attorney said at this point he believes the defense will rest Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. Let's see. Note detailing Combs' personal expenses was shown to the jury. Okay, nothing much there outside of him giving his security a loan of $5,000. Okay. All right. Well, y'all, we're almost there. We are almost at the end of this trial. Prosecutors, the government, they will be wrapping up their case on Monday. Defense attorney will take no more than 1 or 2 days to finish their part. This case will be going to the jury next week. So I ask you at this point, where do you think it stands? Guilty? Innocent? Hung jury? Maybe guilty on specific charges and innocent on others? Where do you think the jury will land? once this goes into deliberation next week. I will be back here Monday doing another live. I will probably come on a little bit later on Monday just because I like joining later so we don't have like so many of the gaps we had like we had today. But I will definitely be here Monday. We're going to see this thing through to the end. I appreciate people dropping in on the live, staying a while. I do appreciate that. Again, please like the live, leave a comment, even if it's just to say hello. I appreciate it. If you are not a subscriber already, please consider subscribing to the channel. And until the next time, bye, y'all.